Today we're going to have a very special, important conversation with Spirit. It's going to be a podcast, and the subject is going to be about the 7 sins. I want to dive into the topic of each sin and explore the light and the dark attributes of the sin, all the different ways it manifests in our lives, and how it affects us both positively and negatively, how it shows itself in our behaviors, as well as how it shows ourselves from the experiences we are subjected to from others. Today's sin that I want to explore is envy. I really have a deep and personal relationship with envy herself, both in good ways and in toxic ways. And I think it would be really great to talk about our relationship with envy and jealousy as a whole, towards ourselves and towards others. Serpiary Tarot. Look at that. She's looking at a book and a planet is coming out to her. There's something growing on her shoulder. It's interesting because as I'm looking at her, she's like staring at something she believes is a planet, analyzing the planet from afar while being in it. And I'm hearing the words, "You are part of this world, but not of it." The Fool looks like this. Whoa, it's so dystopic. Look, there's a person in a hooded cloak. It's like a woman bleeding or something, right? Jumping down, there's tentacles. Sorry, guides, universe, and ancestors of mine. We would like to explore the conversation of envy today. One of the 7 sins. We want to explore the topic of jealousy and envy. Please enlighten us today, Spirit, and share with us what your thoughts are about envy and jealousy, and anything that you would like for us to know about it. Whoa, okay. We got some powerful cards, guys. Oh, I can feel the energy coming from it. Oh, it's painful, guys. I shouldn't be surprised, but I am. I didn't expect I would be feeling emotions while I was doing a podcast with Spirit, but I forgot I'm the one channeling. Spirit is speaking through me. So I'm feeling the emotions of the pains of jealousy, the pains of and heartache of jealousy. Wow. Okay. So we got the Hangman. He's diving into the water or something. And then we have Death. These are like major arcanas. Look at that. Temperance. Justice. The Star. So you're looking at the star from outer space. Explore what... I'm a little bit nervous and excited at the same time what Spirit has to say about jealousy and envy. Right away I'm hearing jealousy can be the death of us, but we always get to choose. I also hear Spirit say that it could also be the life of us, but I'm not quite sure why or how. And as I'm saying that, my eyes darted over to the pile of cards that I didn't yet show you guys, and I'm looking at the woman in 7 of Pentacles, and she's the exact same woman from the Fool. I get it now. Jealousy and envy could be the life of you or the death of you. In this card, she's treading carefully into the water. The waters are her emotions and experiencing the feelings of envy and jealousy. This other card, the death of her, envy being the death of her, instead of treading carefully into these emotions, she's diving straight into it. No consequences, not even sure how deep the water is. She's just jumping right in. It could be shallow and it'll break her neck and it'll kill her. Or it could be really deep and she could get caught and drown. Either way, she's being consumed by the emotions of jealousy. So we always have that choice on how we approach how the emotion of envy causes us to feel, and how we get to choose how we react. It's the same girl. There's 3 cards with the same girl in it. In this one, she's looking at the water. She's not jumping into it or treading it. She's observing it. That's beautiful. This deck is speaking to me immediately. I love it. Look, she's looking across. What does it look like? It looks like mold. Look at the soil being all weird and flesh-like. She's like staring at the sin. She's observing the sin. She's observing this tumor, this nasty, unwanted emotion called envy. And it's sitting in her river of emotions. And instead of diving headfirst into it, or even treading into it and allowing it for it to seep into her skin, she's not touching it, but she's close enough to it, and she's observing it like a bystander. And it's beautiful because it's reminding me of the conversation I just had with Mango King FPS earlier. They asked me what mistakes did I make during my fashion business that I learned from. And a large part of it was I wasn't able to observe my business from the objective standpoint of wanting the best for it. I was too emotionally involved. I was too in the water with it. I couldn't even slowly tread into it because I was already in it. I was too immersed. And it became the death of my business in the sense that my business couldn't grow to the potential I wanted it to be. At least not right now, not yet. It's a recent realization. And so being able to step step away and be like, okay, I'm going to observe these feelings. I'm going to observe how this makes me feel. And I'm going to choose accordingly how to respond. And I'm not going to be in any way whatsoever influenced by the emotion of envy. It's interesting how the Justice card, the girl is wearing similar kind of underwear as this. So it's probably they're in the same universe, but it's like a different person altogether. She's holding the scales of justice and a sword of truth. And she's weighing out the pros and cons of whether or not the choices that she's about to make next will grow or impede her. Or grow and evolve or impede whatever it is she's putting her attention to. That is a really nice question, actually. It's such a simple question that we probably don't often ask ourselves enough, if at all. We don't stop to think, is this impeding me or is this contributing to my life? Is this taking away from my life? Is this holding me back in life? Or is this adding on to my life? Is it encouraging me to grow? Is it supporting me? Is it inspiring me? Is it evolving me? Is it expanding me into the person I wish to become? Or is it projecting me towards the direction of what it is I want to experience in my reality in this lifetime, in this current space, time, and dimension? And when I saw this card, the star card, earlier when I was showing you guys all the cards, and I was staring at it, as soon as it came out and it flew up from the pile when I was shuffling, I had this immediate sense of loneliness and feeling like not belonging. And that's exactly what jealousy and envy can do to us. It causes us to feel like we're not good enough. It causes us to feel like how my whole rant about wearing baseball caps or wearing hats and not being like rich enough to afford these nice clothes and being shamed for wearing hand-me-downs and having this disassociation and trauma with the thing I want the most. And envy is that filler in between what it is that we want and desire and where we currently are. We perceive that as the gap. That gap from where we are and where we wish to be, that gap is a breeding ground for potential envy and jealousy to exist. I even hear coexist. If we're not careful. If we're not careful, it will rot and mold and take over everything in our life. Jealousy and envy will rule us. It will run and it will dictate how we live our life. That is really scary, but it's true. If we are not careful about the emotion of envy and jealousy, it will bleed into everything you say or don't say, do or don't do. It will bleed into your relationship with yourself, your relationship with others, even your relationship with your career success. It will greatly impact the choices you take that will create a lot of impediment towards yourself and others around you. If you allow envy to have a breeding ground in the space between where you currently are and the ideal version of where you aspire to be, that infection will become so much a part of your identity that you don't even know you're being ruled by jealousy. You're not even aware that you're like a servant. You're a slave to jealousy. You're a slave to envy. You do what it tells you to do. You're compelled and controlled by how it sways your heart. When it triggers pain in you, when it makes you feel insignificant, you retort and you lash back, and you are constantly bullied by these feelings of envy to have to justify and prove yourself that you're worthy so that you don't need to feel that type of pain or association with envy. But the more you try, the more pathetic you feel. And that's how envy can continue to have a grasp on you and have the upper hand, and can easily develop a codependent relationship with you. It will leech onto you and become one with you in a parasitic way. The crazy and beautiful thing is, when we become envious and jealous of other people, I feel like it's the same thing, but I'm just going to use it like synonymously. We create the illusion that there's a gap between what it is that we admire and desire and where we are. We think it's so far away from us. This girl here is staring at this one shining star, and she thinks it's the most beautiful star that she can never get close enough to. But the crazy thing is, we don't know if it's a star or not. We think it's a star because it looks like one, but it could be a spaceship like hers. And from afar, her spaceship could also look like a star to this star's perspective, from this spaceship's perspective. And get this, all the other dots in the background, all those little dots in the universal sky, those could all be other spaceships too. But because they're most closest to each other, oh, this is deep as fuck. Because they are closest to one another, they are most compelled to become jealous of one another. And when you think about it, envy usually breeds, not very likely from strangers and people you don't really know. Envy tends to breed when it's someone you're close to, or someone you're like actually associated with. And it could be at one point starting off as admiration, and then evolves and degrades and digresses. Is it digresses? Or it regresses. It goes backwards. It rots, and it turns into envy. And so this is just an example of two pair of stars that are closest to each other that happen to be envious of one another, looking out from their spaceships at one another, thinking that each other is so shining and so bright and beautiful, without realizing and acknowledging their own brightness and their own beauty and their own greatness in this space and time. And there's all these other spaceships and stars in the background that there are chances that some of them are really close by each other too. And in those spaces and sectors, those stars and those spaceships are jealous of one another. So this seems to be a common pattern that happens when intimacy occurs, when closeness happens, when connection happens. Love can spawn, but at the same time, the shadow side of love can breed envy. I was going to go and mention other sins like hate, but we're talking about envy today. So the nature of envy is that it happens to the ones we are closest to and with. But it will always happen, and there is always going to be a chance there for envy to breed and to infect us if we don't know better and allow it to control us. As women with the truth and the justice, she has the sort of discernment to cut away the mold, the infection, the branches that leeches off and siphons off of her energy and tries to control her. It's like these you see those vines in the wall. Now it makes sense, because as we were looking at the Fool card earlier on, she was about to jump in, and there's all these like veins that look like it was trying to like suck her and leech her blood off. In my mind's eye, I'm actually seeing like the Matrix. We're like in the system, and like the plugs that connects into our mainframe and into our system and software of who we are, our identity. The thing trying to plug itself into us is a virus, and that virus is envy. And if we don't identify it and we can't sort it out and like eject it, it infects our software. It infects the way we perceive reality. It goes into everything we do, and it paints our entire mainframe with this layer of its new virus program, which is envy. And we from there are like conducted by this virus. That's really scary when I think about it that way, and it's true. And it's not an organic virus, it's a thought virus. It's a conceptual virus. It's a reality perspective virus. It's a sort of distortion of your true reality. It's like you had a clear view of how your mainframe and your software worked until this virus infected you. Now everything you do, you can't look away from it, and it just keeps showing up and distorting your windows and distorting how you try to open this program, and it'll lag it or shut it off, or it'll make it sound funny. Like everything will be distorted by this virus called envy. Wow. One form of manifestation on how envy can cause you to take action, to be like, I can't stand it. I'm so envious of this individual, and I feel like they're so much brighter than me and better than me. The only way I will feel better is if I'm the only one that can shine as bright or brighter, like Snow White with her stepmother, who ordered the huntsman to go kill Snow White and retrieve her heart to prove that she was killed and dead, so that she can remain the most beautiful and fairest woman in the land. And yeah, that's definitely one way envy can manifest itself and infect you and cause you to be a slave of its doing. Because what do? You kill this person, you feel better for a little bit, and then afterwards you'll feel shit because another person is going to come along who shines just as bright as you, and the whole process is going to happen all over again. Why? Because you're allowing yourself to be reinfected again by this one sin, by this one shadow, by this one distorted disillusionment. You never had proper boundaries, you never had proper self-respect, and you were not able to have a clear view of yourself to begin with. That's why it's so easy to fall prey into the victim of being a victim of envy. Wow, that's so deep and so insightful. That's why it's so good and so important and so necessary to be able to see yourself for who you truly are, not the projections and pains and fears and jealousy and traumas that other people project onto you, either from good intentions or bad intentions to protect you or to hurt you or hold you back, but to truly just know yourself without all the distortions of other people's opinions about who you are. Once you have that clear perception of yourself, it will be very hard for viruses such as envy to infect you, because you will know every cell of your being what is true and what is false, because you can identify it. You'll know when you're not acting in the virtue of your morals, your morals and virtues of what you deem as important and significant in terms of the type of character you portray and that you conduct in practice as an individual. Wow, look at this. 8 of Pentacles. It's like a girl looking at this big machine full of like TV screens and plugs and stuff. And you know what I'm thinking about? I'm thinking she's looking at the matrix. The matrix of society, the system society has created, and how we should perceive ourselves. How many of us grew up with watching TV, and TV being the one thing that raised us while our parents were really busy taking care of everything else in life? Cooking, too tired from work, coming home, decompressing, too busy in the kitchen cooking dinner or washing your laundry, not having the time to spend with you. So you turn on the TV, they leave the TV on for you, and you watch whatever it is on TV. And whatever it is the TV feeds to you becomes your truth and your reality. You're open and susceptible. And this TV and matrix has not done a good job of helping you and teaching you to see your true self and to know your true self. There were some programs in this matrix that helps you, but it's few and far in between. And depending on who's in power and influence and in control, it also affects the type of program and content and information we are exposed to. And so because of that inconsistency, our ability to hone in on being able to see the truth of who we are and having a clear vision of that is very seldom, few and far in between, and in different variations and degrees of awareness. I keep referring to envy as a type of virus that infects us, as if it's not a part of who we are. And I want to say that both are simultaneously true at the same time. It is both a virus and it also has become a part of us because it has to intermingle and collaborate and interweave itself within the fabric of our system and our software of our vessel of our being and our soul in order to express itself, express its form of emotion through us. It's a collaboration of the specific energy and emotion of envy and how envy looks like through us, through you, through me, through them, so on and the other. And depending who envy infects and who envy affects and influences, envy looks different through different people. It manifests and expresses itself and presents itself out into the physical 3D world that we are now witnessing in a different manner, but it's all from the same sources. And if we're not careful, we might associate this aspect of us that is co-creating with envy to become a soul foundational aspect of our actual true identity. If we're not careful, it will consume us and we will think that is the mainframe of the foundation of our identity. And we're not realizing it's a part of our identity. It's not the whole or the foundational premises of our identity. It's not the code of our soul, which is really scary to not realize that. Oh, 9 of Pentacles. The next card is Rage. I misread it. It's called Page of Pentacles, but I thought it said Rage of Pentacles. And it's this guy. This guy looks like one of the other guys in the background. I don't know which one. And then the last card is 10 of Pentacles. She's actually clothed in this one. One way envy manifests itself is when we adapt this form of sin from the matrix of the programs that we have been subjected to. Sometimes we handle it by running away, escaping, completely turning the other way. Instead of looking at the machine, we're looking into forestry. We're going the opposite of what we think is going to help us. In most cases, it does, but not in all cases. Because we think, oh, if pain hurts us, we'll have to go somewhere that brings us pleasure or softness. In a universal way, the answer is true. But there's a higher... This is so good, guys. There's a higher shadow. We think light and dark is just like black and white. No, there's grays. There's varying levels and degrees of darkness, and there's varying level of degrees of light. And so, though you may be escaping from the most deepest, darkest parts of yourself, you're heading towards the light, or what you aspire for it to be the light. You might not necessarily land in the light, because you might not be vibrationally ready. Body, mind, soul, not vibrationally ready. But you'll be heading into a lighter version of darkness. A lighter version of darkness, I don't want to say disguised, but my guides are saying disguised. Presented in the form of a guru, a spiritual practitioner, a philosopher, a teacher, a mentor, a coach, an authority figure, an adult figure, a teacher. And they might come across like, I know the way, guys. I know the way. Follow me. I know the way to handle your envy. So everyone collects. They're like, okay, this is great. We can all heal our envy together. We can all remove this virus together. But what did our guides tell us? Jealousy breeds around the atmosphere of those closest to us. We have to be close enough to an individual for envy to even have the possibility of standing the chance of existing. Envy is the shadow side of love and admiration, right? And what do we see here? We see so many people together, so close together, so intimate, bonding on this exact same topic, envy, being their one soul trauma. What do you think is going to happen? This could be a new form of jealousy breeding. Not in the way it was before, where it's like fungi and stuff growing and growth and rot. Maybe not to that degree, but very possibly to a higher degree that envy can exist. a higher level of envy. What does that mean? You guys are wondering what's higher level of envy? Envy that travels from the egoic, materialistic, human 3D, tangible level and ascending towards a more spiritual, philosophical, conceptual level. So envy moves up the ladder in ego and forms of existence. And a higher level and version of envy is envy of each other's spirituality. Spiritual envy is also a thing. So one example of a higher level of envy is spiritual envy. Because we are close to each other's light. We still have shadows as individuals, but we get closer to each other's light. And the closer we are, there are still different shadows are casted upon us, beside us, around us. And some of the different varying existing forms of shadows that are still left around us is envy. And so it moves from material envy of like, you have more money than me, or you have a wife and I don't, you have a husband and I don't, you have 3 kids and I don't, you have a house and I don't. It moves from that to, oh, you have awareness and I don't. You have wisdom and I don't. You have a special ability given to you by your ancestors and your bloodlines and I don't. You have more authority in this field than I don't. You have more followers in this field and seen as a spiritual public figure and I don't. It goes into higher levels of envy, but it's still envy nonetheless. And if you're not careful, you trying to run away from the matrix and the programming that did not really support us in seeing the true version of ourselves without the illusion and distortion through the lens of envy, you think you're going to be running away from it towards a guru who can teach you to see your shadows and your lights in hopes of belonging with a new collective that is healed alongside you. But what you may not realize is you're quickly actually running back into another new level with a new form of program that has been created by the leaders who may be well or ill-intentioned of wanting to be the ones who do the leading and setting the example of what they believe and deem true to be the true illusion. Oh, true illusion, see? I was going to say true perspective of what the true view of yourself is without the distortion of the matrix. But not only not realizing at the same time, they're projecting their own illusions to creating a new level of collective that is still under the spell of envy, but just in another limbo state, another level, like another state of purgatory of envy. Like we know about the classical view of like Dante's Inferno, like versions of hell, right? There's a limbo and this and that. There's like different degrees of hell. There's different degrees of envy. And though you may not be at the heaviest pit and the lowest level of envy, you're still in the spectrum of envy. So it's very... Oh, I just heard something sad. It's also going to sound kind of controversial, but I'm going to say it. It's both a virus. It's both a virus and a curse, but a blessing and God's gift to us. That's what I'm hearing. Because we need a level of duality, and we will never be free of this envy. But that is why this conversation that we're having now, we are moving from the analyzation of the shadow sides of envy into the blessings and the light sides and the good things of envy, and the blessings and the hidden blessings and the goodness it could bring into our lives that we can't see. Okay guys, we're not done yet. I thought we were done. We're not done. Okay, let me move these cards to the side and shuffle out more cards. Now we're going to explore the light side. Let's talk about the light side of envy. Please, spirit guides. Let's continue this podcast that you want to share with me. Guys, I had a realization today. Like, I realized I had a fear. Perfect timing about this conversation. I realized I had a fear of other people's envy. And I didn't want to trigger anyone's shadows and to invoke envy. And you're like, what are you talking about, Cyn? Today, I wanted to use this tarot deck to do the podcast. And immediately I was filled with gratitude because if I went for Oracle, I wouldn't have this tarot deck. And I wanted so much to share my appreciation and thank him in a very public manner. And as soon as I was going to go about doing it, something in my heart shrank and I was scared. And I'm like, what happened? I was afraid that if I showed my appreciation to Oracle, how much his gift meant to me, I was afraid that it would be taken the wrong way from other people around me. And it might trigger their shadows to feel like I'm favoriting someone over someone else. Or the only way to sound so weird, to win my affections, so to say, right? To, not in a romantic way, but more like Cyn's cool with this person more than they're cool with me. Like, I feel kind of left out. Because I think Cyn's cool and I want Cyn to think I'm cool too. You know, like how friendships are like, right? I didn't want to trigger anyone to feel like that. But then I immediately realized, in the past I would realize that and I'm like, okay, I just won't talk about it. I would just thank them directly and I hope that like makes up for it. But the shadow side of what I didn't realize about it, I thought the light side of envy would be, okay, instead of trying to provoke envy, I'm aware where envy can breed. I'm going to go and thank them personally. But the shadow side of that, it's not that I invoked envy from those around me. The shadow side of envy was not envy itself. It was the fear of envy. Is that crazy? Now you're bringing in fear. The fear of envy to enter my life. And what happened? My fear of envy, which was a healthy fear, is coming from a light place because I'm trying to avoid having fear ruin my life or rule my life. Indirectly, my fear for envy influenced me to hide my true feelings, my true self, my true thoughts and intentions. It caused me to hide myself from public, my deep appreciation for my friend who gifted me this. And because I wasn't able to openly talk about it to avoid envy, the consequence of that was that I dimmed myself down. I shut myself up. I closed up my self-expression and I dimmed my light because I was afraid that speaking my truth will cause pain for other people around me. But instead of it causing people for those around me, it caused pain to myself the most. And it caused pain to those who love and support me. They might not see it that way, but they will never know the feeling of acknowledgement because I never expressed it in that manner of acknowledging them. I only acknowledged them privately, but I never acknowledged them publicly. It feels different to be acknowledged privately versus publicly. And I believe the person who is being appreciated by me should be able to experience both. To experience all the blessings and all the positive emotions they can from me. And so I withheld that from them. I withheld their chance to feel acknowledged. And in return, I withheld my truth and I withheld my light of self-expression. And so as a result, my fear of envy influenced and allowed me to be a lesser version of myself. A much smaller version of myself. So even light intentions towards envy can result in shadow because both go in hand in tandem. We got King of Pentacles. Interesting card. Ooh, the chair has eyes. Yet he's wearing something. It's like he's not seeing where we are. He's seeing into the other perspective, into the other realms. Other card is the sun. Oh, that's a creepy ass sun, guys. Like, is it made of stone? No, it's made of like root. I don't know. It's creepy. the Hermit. Then we have Six of Wands. And we have Two of Cups. It's either he's chasing her or she's leading him down here. He's holding his hand, depending on your perspective. She's holding his hand. Ah, okay. This is interesting. You see the sun here? With all the little vines and stuff? It looks kind of like snakes, like Medusa. What was the story of Medusa? Medusa can't see herself, even though she's so beautiful. Her curse is that she can't see herself. If she sees herself, she'll also turn into stone. People can't look at her or else they'll turn into stone. It's like, but the stone is supposed to represent the sun. And those little children, or those people who are pale, like the sun kind of, are holding this blonde girl down to face the sun. And it makes me think of the Star card, where when you're too close to another person, not too close, I'm going to rephrase that. Intimacy can breed for envy. And most oftentimes, the people we choose to be envious of aren't strangers. They're people we know, or people we're closest to. Could be even friends, family members, colleagues, right? And these people here, the light side of envy is that they're so envious of her that instead of trying to bring her down and harm her, they're pushing her up. How? Well, they think that when they're bringing her to the sun, which is like an even brighter light than her, they're thinking, we're going to bring you to face another closest star, a star that's brighter than you, in hopes to make you feel less of a star, to make you feel less, like you shine less bright than them. If they can't shine brighter than you, the light side, I know it sounds controversial, but the light side of these people, of one aspect of envy, is that people collectively would want to make you feel bad and bring you down by placing you and comparing you next to someone who shines brighter than you and or is bigger than you. For someone who might have ego and self-esteem issues and insecurities and a poor vision of themselves, they don't have a good stable relationship and perspective on themselves, and they don't have a good perspective on who they are and the truth of who they are, they're going to succumb to this sort of envy and this sort of approach and attack, and they're going to feel inferior. That will be the success of envy, is that one of the consequences is that the light side of people's envy can cause this person, their intention is to cause her inferiority by comparing her next to someone or something that might be supposedly more superior than them. But the light side, here's the catch, the light side of envy here, so what ends up happening is a 50-50 chance that when the other 50 happens, which is the light side of envy, these envious people will bring this being next to what they perceive as superior. Keep this in mind, superiority and inferiority is a matter of perspective. What someone thinks is more important versus the next person is totally different. It varies. Someone might think science is important. Another person might think, no, religion is important. There's always going to be a third factor where someone thinks both is important. But either or, there's always someone who has a polarizing view from you. So in this perspective, these people here collectively agree that this sun is more superior than this being. This planet is bigger than this planet. Okay, let's pretend they're like planets or stars. This star is bigger than this star. But the light side is, when this star was presented to this star and this star, when they meet each other, instead of it causing for this to feel inferior and this feels more further superior from an egoic place, they look at each other and they fall in love. Love through admiration. Aspects of this sun, there are light aspects of sun and the shadow aspects of the sun, in regards of light aspect of superiority and shadow aspects of superiority, of shining bright. Same with this one. I'm sure this one has shadows and light too. And when they meet each other, they're like each other's sun and moon. And then these people's perspective was like, oh my god, this is gonna make you feel like shit about yourself. It totally backfired. We weren't trying to make you happier, but instead they meet each other and they see each other's light through the envy of the collective that brought them together, and they see the light in each other. They see the light in each other. And it helps them shine. It helps each other shine even brightly. Isn't that so beautiful? That's so beautiful. And hey, maybe a light side of their aspect of envy shines light on a shadow aspect of their envy, vice versa, and they help each other grow and heal. That's the light side of envy, is that when you're able to identify other people's manifested forms of co-collaboration of that energy of envy and how it materializes and expresses itself through the form of you as a vessel and a being versus the other person doing the same thing, and you can identify it in each other. And if you're willing to not let it to turn you into a slave of it, you can identify it in each other and help each other, not necessarily prune it out of your life, but to transform it and transmute it from a lower vibration and level of envy to a more ascended spiritual level, which is lighter and softer. And it goes from physical, like deaths and murder and killing and poisoning and backstabbing, and it becomes more like, and then it moves into like spiritual psychic attacks and evil eye and just bad intention and silent jealousy. But it moves up from that to realizing that there is a shadow in you and the envy does reside in you, and it's causing all these unpleasant feelings, but you're not going to act on it, and you know better, you're not in the world, but you're a part of it. You're able to separate yourself from it, so you can see envy from a separated place. You can see how other people project their envy towards you from a separated place and not take it personally as if there's something that had to do with you as an individual to provoke or invoke or deserve that, vice versa. Looks like a mechanical bowl of what though? Let me further meditate on this. Envy, 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 envy. Oh, and now it's connected to the Two of Cups. The light side of envy. Look at this. So there's two cards, right? One side of the card is a couple supposedly running away together. The girl's more ahead in the lead though. She looks not happy. She's pulling him away into some dark alleyway, away from the light. But look at this other girl. This girl is the one who is facing the sun. And she's in a stance of power, and she's shining brightly. I think that the light side of envy, so the shadow side of envy is this person likes this, it's a love triangle, okay? This person likes this man, but this man has his eyes on her. Do you see that story? He has his eyes on her and she notices that, and it triggers her jealousy. She might not necessarily really like him genuinely, but it makes her feel inferior according to her light. She feels dark compared to her. She feels like she's shining and she's not. So what does she do? Out of envy and jealousy and need for control from her egoic place, she grabs him and pulls him away from the light, away from her shining light. She pulls him into the shadow with her and hopes that he will look only at her, at what she deems as a more insignificant. She's a more insignificant being compared to her. That's the shadow side of envy now. The light side of envy. Because of her triggered jealousy and her pulling him away, the contrast of her light and her shadow highlights to him and brings deeper into awareness how he actually feels about her, and simultaneously how he feels about her. And her having him taken away, they get to experience each other's presence and lack of presence. This is the catalyst. That's the light side of envy. This person who felt inferior became the catalyst to these two people seeing each other's light. I get it now. This crowd here is the same on a collective scale with a group of people who dislike your light and try to shun you by comparing you to a brighter star. It's the same as an individual. So instead of a collective, it's an individual doing the same thing as a catalyst of hoping to separate you two and to make you both feel less superior when together and to bring that power to herself. Instead, it's highlighting how much they actually enjoy each other's presence all the more. So envy can act as a catalyst for growth and for deeper realization and for the purpose of showing contrast. That's what Spirit is trying to tell us today. Any final messages, Spirit? This was a really, really insightful conversation here. Alright, they wanted to go back to this man that I didn't address. It ties back to, well, some cards are intense, I'll show you guys in a bit. This card ties back to when we grow up with the programs that we are exposed to and the television, because he's watching, he's like in a VR, he's like in a virtual reality. But the virtual reality is like his chosen state of reality, a simulation, and hopes to see through the darkness and all the wrath around him, all the wrath that's manifested from people's envy. Yeah, so it's like this. It looks like it's connected. Look at this. It's like the girl's in the same universe as him. And one person is like hoping to find the answers through connecting to another realm. And she's choosing to traverse through her current shadows in hopes to understand her envy better rather than seeking escape from it. Okay, these are the 3 cards that flew out and they look very weird. Okay, the Devil. 3 of Pentacles. Doesn't that look like Einstein? And then 2 of Pentacles. Well, this is some deep shit, guys. I'm gonna say it's controversial, but I can't help it. I have to say what I hear, okay? The true origin and the seed of envy is also a part of the seed of the very beginning of creation of space and time. It was already woven and integrated into the matrix of our existentiality as humankind, as soul kind, as celestial kind, as beings. Like, this is a very graphic imagery of giving birth. It's something coming out from the vaginal canals of this being, and this being looks like a cosmic monster, like a celestial being. Like, it's not from this place. It's like it's an like alien creature, and out coming from this alien creatures are hundreds and thousands and billions of cords, and each cord is connected to the matrix of our simulated reality, of our perspective. It's hardwired into our mainframe and our software of reality. It has integrated envy, and the perspective and the illusions of envy has integrated itself into the part of the fabric of our reality and our perception of reality. It's one of the perspectives of the many realities we can have access to, that we can understand, just like this man who is going into virtual reality and connecting and seeking different sources of information and perspectives. So is that entity birthing forth our perceived reality? Yes, it's part of it, because that is a good question. It is. And at the same time, what birthed this? This is the virus of envy. It's birthing out the fabric of our perceived reality of envy from its source. That's how envy sees the world, and it's connecting to every single being how it exists, and it exists in every person differently. But what gave birth to envy? It was the seed of envy itself came from the root of reality and existence. It's beyond humanity. It's an energy. It's an energy. It's a vibration. Right? Love is a vibration. Love is an energy. Hate is a vibration. Hate is an energy. Everything has a different vibration. And so this vibration is part of a bigger seed of existence. If you think about a tree has a trunk, and then it separates off into branches, right? And the branches separate into smaller things like tinier branches, which separates into buds, which separates into leaves, right? That's what this is. Now we're going into past life and future lives. You're just thinking, oh, the seed of envy is blossoming all these branches, and these branches are connecting to each individual person, what envy is. But you have to realize this was branched off from something else, which was branched out from something else, which is branched out from something else, which is, and if you keep going, where is it going to lead you? It's going to lead you back to source. So it's not saying that source is bad or good. Source is experiencing itself through one version of reality, which is envy. Wow. I love this. I'm so glad we're doing this. I'm so glad I'm having this podcast. I'm so blown away. Okay, so now what does this have to do with anything we're talking about? It has everything to do with everything we're talking about. And it's the beginning, because envy is also tied to our sexuality, our self-preservation, our ego, our need to survive. I feel like this is Einstein who's like figuring out the universal truths of the world and reality, and he's like writing out a plan, but he doesn't want you to know, because I'm hearing this now. It does you no good to try to master, to ever have the intention. Don't even try to set the intention of attempting to master the emotions of envy. It is bigger than you. It's beyond you. It has been here before you and will be here after you. Even all the many lifetimes you will live and all the many lifetimes you will reincarnate back. This energy is part of the foundational reality of the matrix of existence. And it was set in place before we were even put here. This is some deep shit. And if you try too hard from a place of ego, of wanting to master and control, in fear of having it rule you, you're going to be consumed by it. You will get lost in the entanglement of envy. And you won't even know the difference between light and shadow practices and light and shadow way that envy manifests in your reality. You'll get trapped in your own mind. You might even become like this man who will forever perpetually be trying to master and understand the emotions of envy, not realizing he had actually become consumed by it. Consumed how? He's not being consumed by envy in the sense of he's becoming envious himself. He's not becoming envious towards other people. He's not becoming envious to himself. He is being controlled by envy for his lust for knowledge of envy. So that's where the other 7 deadly sins tie in. And yet still he's being affected by envy. He's not harmed by envy directly, but through his own undoing and his own choices, it's causing him to become directly affected by envy. Envy being the catalyst of him being trapped in this state of constantly trying to master it, yet never living, never truly being, never expressing. In a state of stagnancy and stoicism, observing his life rather than living his life, in fear of having envy hurt others and himself, and not realizing that envy, though it can hurt us and others, it also can serve as a catalyst for us and others to see the light in one another and choose to focus and hone in on the light instead of the shadow. We always have a choice. This goes back to the very beginning of our podcast, how we always have a choice to step into life or death. Envy can be the life of us or the death of us. Life of us, we are aware of it, but we're not a part of it. Or we could become the death of it, where we dive head straight in and we're becoming engulfed and we're drowning in the emotions of envy and we don't even know what is up and down or down, right? So see that envy is necessary to exist in our life, this lifetime, and many lifetimes, and different forms of existence, even on the higher vibrational standpoints, and even on the lower egoic material ways. And the goal is not to master something, because when you master it, there's control of it. And now there's a superior and an inferior. And envy is not coming from a place of right or wrong, or good or bad. Envy is a catalyst for self-awareness. in contrast to serve to understand where you're at and where you're not. Wow, this is beautiful. Whoa, I feel it in my heart. Whoa, my heart is expanding. Like, it's actually, I can feel it like going like this. It's releasing something. It's healing me. And in a way that I'm not aware of what it's healing yet. Yeah. That concludes the podcast with Spirit today on the subject and topic of envy. Thank you so much to my ancestors and my spirit guides and universe and God and all the beautiful beings and entities in between for bringing me such deep and beautiful wisdom and insight on the topic of envy. I am so moved by today's podcast and how much I learn and how much insight I gain from this reading, and I hope it has served you or moved you or inspired you or opened up something inside you like it did for me. And of course, if you like this and you want to watch more of this series, because it's going to be the first of the 7, because it's the 7 deadly sins, not the 7 deadly sins though, but be sure to subscribe, give me a follow, turn on your notification bell so you know the next time I post another video.